David Starkey.
I am gay and I'm atheist, but I have profound doubts about this case. It seems to me that what we're doing is producing a tyrannous new morality that is every bit as oppressive as the old. When I grew up, being gay was very difficult. It was frowned upon, and if you signalled you were, I remember vividly, and it's one of the things that's altered my politics more than anything else, being moved on by police on Victoria Station, being in a gay club when it was busted, and the whole thing. You know, I've been there. But I am very, very concerned that a new sort of liberal morality is coming in, which, as I said, is as intolerant, is as oppressive, as intrusive into family life. For example, the couple who were running, we've had a lot of cases like this. There were the couple who were running some sort of hotel, who were Christians, and didn't want a gay couple to sleep there. Now, the way to do that is not to ban them, not to fine them. It is for them simply to put up what seems to me to be a quite proper notice in a small, privately run hotel, which says, we are Christians and this is what we believe. And, you know, otherwise, we are, as I said, we're producing a new tyranny. You've got a brain. It's the most important thing about you. People worry about their faces, they go to gyms, they work out their pecs. Many animals are stronger, most are faster. Yeah, my dog, oh, come on, you're so fat, you can really move.
I guarantee you.
Yes, now, right.
I can move faster than you, old man.
Look
at your glasses, man.
This is personal abuse.
Commenting on personal shit. I can start commenting on you in a minute, mate, so don't start that, all right? Don't start that at all.
Poor lad has got a problem. There are, with Jamie's food, there'll be lots of darting opportunities. Now, well, I sort of agree with George. I think we need to ask some very hard questions. Why is it so important that there be an even balance between men and women? Why, you know, do we not have a similar quotient for Asians, homosexuals, left-handed people, or whatever? And so this is, you know, if we demand that Parliament reflects us, that's a question worth asking. I think the other thing is we've got to ask, what is it that women actually bring? And this question, I think, needs answering, and it needs thinking about. Are we talking about simply social justice? Are we actually saying, as George was hinting, that women are supposed to do it differently? My sense in politics is that successful women are at least as brutal and nasty as the successful men, and Margaret Thatcher is an outstanding example. And the final point is, some of our very worst ministers have been women. No, just please let's confront this.
Nobody's stopping you, just be brief.
We had Estelle Morris, who at least had the merit of realising she couldn't do the job and resigned within a year. It's true, she knew she couldn't do it. And we had Jackie Smith, who, with intensely strong competition, is probably the worst Home Secretary ever, and was, of course, snout in the trough in the largest possible way. So, sorry, women are not a panacea. They don't bring a miracle. They don't do mysterious good. You know, sorry, can we all start to be adult and think? We have this awful, idiotic PC politics. What we've got to recognise, I said nothing about Scotland. I said a great deal about the SNP. The SNP is a virulently nationalist party of a type that we have not had in Britain. It models itself on the continental extreme nationalist movements of the 1930s. That's when it's founded. It's time we call things by their proper names. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not saying they're about to set up concentration camps. I'm not going to say that we're going to see a Kristallnacht of English businesses in Edinburgh. Of course we're not. But the resemblances are striking and are worrying. You know, we've spent years fussing in Britain about completely minor fringe things like the BNP and whatever. They are nothing compared with the Scottish Nationalist Party, which has seized control of a whole country and is pushing this kind of radical agenda. They talk about civic nationalism. The word civic is merely a fig leaf, or perhaps bearing in mind that it's Scotland, a jockstrap.
You say they seized control, 50% of the population voted for them.
Yes, of course, but sorry, lots of people have voted for very unpleasant leaders. I shan't mention the word Hitler. I mean, sorry, democracy doesn't always get it right.
I believe you have a house in America, Mr. Starkey.
I have a house in America.
I was wondering, where are you domiciled for tax purposes?
I am domiciled here, and I pay full taxes. And can I just say, as you have chosen to be personal and invidious, let me share a little story with you. One of the great things that is essential to Britishness is a sense of public duty, that you do things for nothing with organisations that can't pay. Ms. Penny, who has been advertising these great left-wing virtues, and I were due to debate for a very impoverished little society called the Thomas Paine Society on the virtues of a republic on the one hand and a monarchy on the other. I was prepared to do it for free. She insisted on trying to charge such a large fee that the event had to be cancelled. Now, I think that is as mean and grasping as some runt comedian, and I will not be lectured to by a jumped-up public school girl like you. I came from the bottom, and I will not have it.
Excuse me, may I respond to that?
Right of reply. Go on.
I think I deserve a right of reply to that. I personally feel that asking to be paid...
Did you or did you not do what I've just said?
I was going to respond to that, but...
Why not do it straight away? Did you or did you not claim such a large fee that the event had to be cancelled?
No, I didn't, Mr.
Well,
Starkey.
then every member of the committee is lying, and you, clearly as usual, are telling the truth.
No, this is not what was said to me. I
have emails. That wonderful, wonderful method of tracking.
No, I don't think I'm going to respond to it. One of the reasons the event was cancelled partly because they couldn't find a speaker in time because they were trying to fly me out, and part of the reason that the cost for that on top of my being asked to be paid for 2 days' work because I actually don't earn very much.
Well, they had two pretty good speakers there already.
Well,
no, she backed out because she wasn't being paid.
Anyway,
sorry, excuse me.
We're
Paris, what about the generational divide? Because that is really quite striking. The under 45s would have clearly voted to stay in, and the over 45s have clearly voted to take us out.
Well, there was a great headline on Vice today which said, "Grandma, what have you done?" And I think that a lot of millennials will be feeling that this morning. I think it's incredibly selfish, and I personally will not forgive or forget. Because the older generation don't have to live here as long as the younger generation do.
So are we going to introduce, for example, a cut-off point beyond which you can't vote? Well, are you your sense of sublime self-entitlement, are we going to have those under 35 with 2 votes?
Hang on a minute. Young people have already had so much taken away from them. I don't need to take away my airtime as well, Mr. Starkey. So what we're actually looking at is a generation of people who've... Well, you're not letting me because you're interrupting me because you're a privileged white man who just wants to speak over me, and this is the problem.
We are in a democracy. Not that you would know it, by the way, from the verdict of the Supreme Court. I mean, this again is the problem. We are so unclear what the source of sovereignty is. We prattle about the idea of parliamentary sovereignty. You'll love this, Andrew. Do you know who invents parliamentary sovereignty? Michael probably will. Henry VIII. Henry VIII invents the concept of an independent national parliament distinct from any other form of authority. That's the Pope. And there's only one sovereign in Parliament. Again, Michael will tell us, the enacting clause of an Act of Parliament, be it therefore enacted by the Queen's most excellent majesty. Only the Queen is sovereign in Parliament. The Commons and the Lords merely assent to it. Now, this, in other words, we have a total pantomime. I'm sorry, our constitution has become a pantomime. It's a Gilbert and Sullivan pantomime that doesn't recognise democracy, doesn't look at the role of a sovereign people, is totally incompatible with a functioning 20th century democracy.
You say it's causing political instability. Explain what you mean.
Well, precisely this, that we are in a position where we're now dealing with a very, very tight timetable. It's a timetable of merely 2 years. We're dealing with an extraordinarily difficult negotiation, the point that Michael has just made now, that if this clause were actually to be accepted, it effectively gives Europe the obvious negotiating tactic: be as difficult as possible and the negotiations will fail. And I'm sorry, Lisa, you really do have to understand that the Lords is not the proper... No, the Lords...
Very pleased that there's a bunch of men here to explain to me how it works.
Well, there's one man explaining to you.
The real failure have been you lot in the Commons, and particularly the Labour Party. Its inability to take a clear line on this. When you have an opposition that is as weak, as confused, as uncertain and as badly led, effectively opposition goes to the law.
Lisa Starkey, are we not as far away from the democratic reform as the Lords as we've ever been in modern times?
I think we are. And one of the great problems with the abolition of the hereditaries, you seem to carry out, as so much of New Labour, a pseudo-modernisation. And this is, I think, is profoundly dangerous. I think we have a generally unstable constitution. The extraordinary debate over what the role of the judiciary was, in terms of, as it were, compelling Parliament to go through with process, all of these things are really dangerous. We are played out with this, as I said, this Gilbert and Sullivan pantomime of an unwritten constitution. And I would hope that this enormous political crisis, because that's what it is, it's the biggest change in politics for well over 50 years, would force us to look again. We've put it off, and we've put it off, and we put it off too long, and we need to do something and then have the courage.